right. Thank you all for coming. Thanks for coming back, John.
Right off the tennis court.
Right off the tennis court. Well, we don't care. We don't care how you get here. Okay, very good. Very good. All right, so we always have a topic for these programs, and if you're on the newsletter and you actually take a look at it, you'll get a hint at what the topic is. And so does anybody happen to know what the topic is for tonight?
The fraud of democracy.
The fraud of democracy. That's close enough.
Fallacy.
That's close enough. And usually what I do is, for those of you who are getting the newsletters and stuff, and the Facebook and stuff, and if you're not on that list, we'll get your email and we'll get your Facebook and hooked up. I usually put some kind of a little visual thing together to kind of get us in the mood of what the program's going to be about. So, by the time the night's over, you'll understand the screen. In the upper right corner, you have a picture of Maharaj Pariksit, who was the great king who was actually the great-grandson of Arjuna. And he appeared by the blessings of Krishna, who protected him, because at one of the very last things that happened at the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra was Ashwatthama was very nasty. Also, can you make sure the potatoes get stirred? That's for the cooking department. The very last thing that happened was a rather nasty gentleman called, gentleman's probably not the right word, Ashwatthama hurled a Brahmastra weapon and tried to kill Maharaj Pariksit, who was still in the womb of Uttara. And that would have wiped out the entire Pandava dynasty, and that would have been very unfortunate. I mean, we're in a bad situation in Kali Yuga, but we would be even in a worse situation had he not survived. So this episode that we're going to talk about tonight, and lots of times I tend to dismiss stuff. I practiced, basically 10 years in the Krishna conscious movement, and I got exposed to a lot of stuff. And sometimes I forget that you guys maybe are not exposed to some of this stuff. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to share with you a very important part of the whole kind of foundational philosophy of what Krishna consciousness is. The topic, deceived by democracy or something like that. Usually these topics, they're intended to kind of get curiosity generated in the newspapers and stuff. And we are moving into an an election year. And there's all sorts of major things happening tonight in the news media with who's going to be the potential candidates for the presidency. So I kind of play off of sometimes common events. But the main thing I want to point out, and just to briefly discuss this, does everybody understand? I mean, when I was growing up in high school, or probably even junior high school, and I learned the concept of democracy, the way they taught it to me is it's the best system in the world, because we all get a chance to hear a subject, and then we can decide, shall we have recess at 1 o'clock, or shall we have recess at 4 o'clock, or we get to vote on it, and we all get to have our opinion counted, and the opinion that has the biggest popular vote wins. And as a little kid, I was thinking, wow, that's pretty cool. That way the most people will be happy because everybody's getting a chance to vote on what they want. So in an ideal situation, that sounds kind of cool. Although we're kind of seeing that doesn't necessarily work out that way so much now in a grand scale, where what's the population in America now? So 12 million or something like that, 12 billion?
320 million.
What is it?
I think 320 million.
All right, well, something. It's a lot of number. It's a big number. And then, I never did real good in social studies and in history, so I don't even want to try to unravel the electoral system and how it works. And I promised somebody who's not here right now, in fact, that we weren't going to turn this into a discussion on politics, which I really generally never do. But I did want to at least acknowledge or make a quick acknowledgement here on what exactly are the limitations of democracy. Because I just want to weave that in, because what we're going to talk about tonight are those subtle laws of nature. And if we violate the subtle laws of nature, we're going to pay for it, right? Or there's going to be consequences. It's basically a simple way of thinking of karma. Like bad karma, instant karma is going to get you. What is karma? Karma is when you don't pay your car bill, they come and repossess your car. That kind of stuff. Now that's obviously a very clear, tangible example. If you don't pay your water bill, they turn off your water. Okay? If we don't do certain things in our life, there is consequences. And conversely, if we do certain things in our life, if we go to school, study, theoretically, we get a better job, we get higher wage, and so forth. So those are the natures of karma. But just briefly, can anybody just throw out there? I'm not going to, drag this out. I'm just curious. Anybody want to suggest something that they maybe are aware of? What's really one of the major problems with? I've got 3 of them here, which I'm going to show. Harry?
Well, the popular vote might not be the best thing for the whole society.
Yes, that's a very good point, and that'll be covered. John?
Well, yeah, the idea too with literacy, of a population. I mean,
Exactly. And okay, you guys you're hitting it right off the top. So I'm just going to do this. I don't want to waste too much time here. I just want to quickly go over this.
One guy said democracy is 2 wolves and a sheep deciding on what's for dinner.
Right. There you go. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so what I got here, I don't know if everyone can see this, but limitation of democracy.
Blacklist, they said, for every saint there's a million sinners.
Yeah. So one of the main problems
is
is one of the main problems with democracy is everyone will know and understand the relevant facts before casting their vote. What's the chance of doing in today's world? I mean, we don't know what's going on. We're trusting we're going to get information through the media and stuff, but most of the time.
Now the digital age is changing that a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
But still, it's hard to sort out.
Right.
I mean, how many people get the election notice, right? We're coming to an election period, and it'll say, going to vote on this issue, and then they'll say, here's all the reason why you should vote for it. And then the next page says, here's all the reason why you shouldn't vote for it.
Right.
And then they turn the page and says, oh, here's all the reason why you really should vote for it. And it's like 4 different views, yay, nay, and here's why you should and you shouldn't, and so forth. And I've really tried to read some of those things, and I go, with the information that's on that page, I could really be persuaded either way.
And they oftentimes don't tell you what the fallout is in terms of voting.
Well, they
for it,
try to
because
tell
there's
you that
secondary
stuff. They
things
try to
happen
tell you
don't
that
tell
stuff, but I mean, those things are written really well to convince you to vote the way that person who wrote it wants you to vote. So, but when it really gets right down to it, we don't really know what's going on. Harry?
But also too, right now the speed of information the way it's being delivered to us it's created a lazy mind.
Yeah. Well, that's the next thing I got here. Everyone, the limitation, we assume that everyone, and I think John said this, everyone is wise enough to interpret the facts in a way that is most beneficial for everyone, and it's sustainable. I mean, there is a certain degree of educated, intelligent, or you said literacy. Yeah, obviously, if you can't read, then how are you going to read the issues? I mean, I suppose you could listen. But I mean, the point is you're not very well educated, you maybe not understand the consequences of things. So Prabhupada says democracy, he actually has a pun, he calls it demon crazy. Because basically ignorant people who don't really know the purpose of life are voting for what?
Right. That's why the founders of this country they formed a republic, not a real democracy.
Right.
They feared democracy.
Right.
Interesting point.
Right. And Prabhupada makes it very clear, because if you don't know what the purpose of life is, I'm going to vote for that party all the time.
Right. The reason property owners, whether you were black or white, you actually were allowed to vote, except that in most states blacks weren't allowed to own property. But if you were a property owner, they felt you had a vested interest.
So, and then the third
self-educated.
The third point I came up with is that nobody cheats, is bribed, misled, coerced, or threatened.
Oh my.
And depending on who you listen to, it seems like there's some of that going on, even by the politicians themselves, doing things behind closed doors. So I'm just pointing this out to give us a point, because I know I was a good little kid in high school, and I thought, American democracy, that's cool, we got the best system in the world. And there's a lot of good things here, don't get me wrong. But the whole Vedic system is suggesting a whole different way the government should be run and how things should get done. And I just have a few more points here. So how do we learn? So I got a few quotes here. By blinding one's eyes, truth does not become a lie. In other words, and there's a lot of this that goes on in OJAI. I think we all know people who say, I don't want to put any bad thoughts in my head. Well, maybe you don't want to do that, but that doesn't mean that's going to get rid of the fact that there's bad things going on. There's things going on.
Sure.
Okay, so just by blinding one eye, it doesn't change anything. And then the next one here is, people speaking agreeable words are always easy to find. He, however, who speaks words which, though unpalatable, are yet wholesome, is difficult to find. And that's from the Valmiki Ramayana, which is the big story comparable to the Mahabharata, which it's just one of the major epics of India. So these are from some of those scriptures. These are just some things to think about. So how do we learn? Do we experiment? Do we blunder forward, or do we inquire? Because these are kind of three basic ways of learning things. We just, now it's all scientific, just experiment. You just keep experimenting, that didn't work. Edison is known to probably, I think, did like 10,000 experiments until he finally figured out if he sucked the air out of the bulb, then the filament wouldn't burn out, and then voila, he had the light bulb. Okay, that's experimentation. Blunder forward. Well, sometimes what we see going on in the medical industry, especially with some of these drugs they're doing, I mean, a lot of people are being used, the FDA is supposed to protect us from this, but if you really understand the medical industry, they are doing stuff legally, and lots of times people are the experimental guinea pigs until they realize, that's why I have all these disclaimers so that nobody can sue them, right? Take all these drugs. Oh, and by the way, if something happens, don't come to us because we told you something could happen. Okay, so that's maybe not such a good way to. How about inquire? Well, that's the Vedic system. Ask, but ask somebody who knows.
Right.
Ask somebody who knows. So Prabhupada gives the example, if you want to know who your father is, the person who's most likely to know. Of course, some people like to make a joke here and say, well, in this world today, this isn't necessarily always a good source, but the mother ought to know who your father is. Okay, she is the authority there. Okay, so, but here are all things that go on when we deal with the process of knowing. When we deal with, how do we actually know something? These are some of the things that get in the way. Our pride. I don't want to admit that I don't know. I want to look good, figure it out. We have to think. Sometimes we argue about it, right? Sometimes we deny. No, that's not. I don't want to accept that. That's too. I have to change something. I don't want to do that. Deny, evade, avoid. Sometimes when we hear something we don't like, what do you? Turn up TV. I don't hear that. Okay. These are things that I've encountered. You guys probably have your own list. Sometimes we actually admit it. That's rare. Yep, you're right. I shouldn't have done that. I wasn't aware of it. I'm sorry. Okay, good. Cave in is kind of admitting it in a negative way, maybe. Sometimes we just become overwhelmed and bewildered. We're just, I don't know what to do. There's a lot of that going on in the world today. People just don't know. Should I do this? Should I do that? The mental health industry is telling us that there's a lot of people suffering with anxiety disorders, and it's reasonable to understand why. There's just so much dysfunction going on. And then another concept is to accept. That's the one that, or surrender, I think, surrender. So in Krishna consciousness, we come to a point where we really get to a point where we go, wow, I really don't know what's going on. And you kind of surrender that. So, and so I thought of this too. I don't want to get too distracted here, but 5 stages of grief work is anger. Why did this happen to me? Well, that's fall into mental ignorance. We're in mental ignorance. Why are we so lost? Why is the world such a mess? And so the next thing we do is denial, disbelief. No, it didn't really happen to me. Something is wrong here. I am actually I'm a deity. I'm a god. I'm a wonderful person. I know everything. I'm really strong in what I know and what I can do. Yeah, you're still kind of in denial about your limitations. Okay. Then the next one is bargaining, and these are classic symptoms. Okay, it did that. Okay, maybe I am not so perfect. Maybe I don't know what's going on. Okay. And that's where, in the classic 12 steps, it's like the first step, which is, my life's not working too well. I need some help. Okay.
Yeah, these stages of dying, are these they look like Kubler-Ross's?
Yeah, these are just accepted industry standards of acceptance of denial. I just thought it was kind of interesting because you can tie this into our own day-to-day growth process, because there's tons of information out there. are we willing to consider it and accept it? Because people push stuff away. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to hear it, or they think they already know. All right. Then it's finally, and then depression, my deal wasn't accepted and life sucks. You know, it's not worth proceeding. Or my senses are still not satisfied. I'm still not satisfied. I still want more. Okay. And then acceptance, okay, it's not all that bad. I can make up things and we'll be okay. I can do this. And so the Krishna conscious point of view is, no, I can do this. And for the most part, the people that are coming here, I've come to that point where they know I can surrender. I can actually stop projecting all my ideas and trying to figure it out and going to people who don't know what they're talking about, or going to bad sources or bad influences, and just say, no, no, no. Let's go somewhere. Let's learn something. The Bhagavat Purana, which we're going to read tonight, is considered to be one of those profound books that ever came out of India. If you want to study India, if you want to understand what made India tick, this Bhagavat Purana is at the heart of it. We're going to go into that in a minute here. So acceptance. So, and then we go through the cycle again. Then we come to another layer of understanding, and next thing you know it, boom, we're faced with another dilemma. I thought I understood it. No, and we go through the cycle again. Okay, so let's see what else. Until the next challenge, and the cycle repeats itself. And these are some of the quotes that came up. Dishonesty abhors publicity. We don't like anybody to know when we're dishonest, right?
Yeah.
We do something, I don't want anybody to know about that. If somebody thinks he is something when he's really nothing, he's only deceiving himself. So that's a biblical quote. Okay, so then laws of nature. Okay, and this is what we're trying to talk about tonight, laws of nature. There's gross, evident, like Dharma. In other words, fire burns. We know fire burns. Nobody argues about that, okay? Gravity pulls objects towards itself. And so basically, when I wrote that, I went, well, that's the whole law of physics, okay? Most of the people in the world today have a general acceptance and appreciation of the law of physics, entropy, matter can either be created or destroyed, that kind of stuff. But those are gross laws of nature. What about the subtle laws of nature? That's where things get messy. Some of the ones that I thought of is that movie that came out, The Secret. Everybody's heard of The Secret? If you think it enough, it'll happen. Yeah, who said that? That's not in the Bhagavad Gita. Does it really work? Bhagavad Gita has a whole different philosophy. People sold that, but that, if you think about it, that's not so good. Give to receive, well, there's a little bit of truth to that. But if you're giving everything away and hoping you're going to get rich, you might want to rethink that a little bit too. Because if you read our charity box over here on laws of charity, there's charity in the mode of goodness, charity in the mode of passion, and charity in the mode of ignorance. And there's charity in the mode of pure goodness too. So if you're giving your money away in the charity in the mode of ignorance, you'll be broke real quick. Prayer helps. It can, but depends on who and how and what you're praying for. And that's also explained elaborately in the Bhagavad Gita. Accepting our limits is very humbling. And this is really kind of what it gets down to right here. And the reason why I'm taking the time to introduce this subject matter right now is because what we're going to go into when we go into the Bhagavatam is, most of you guys I think are all perfectly capable of handling this. It might be a little new for you guys, but it's heavy stuff. That's why we don't get 50 or 100 people here on Tuesday nights, because most people are really not ready to hear what's really going on. The consequences of our ignorance. Most people they just rather turn on the TV and watch some sitcom and laugh.
And even if they hear it, they don't understand it.
Yeah, and actually I was going to say, Harry went to a thing with me this weekend. Maybe later we can get you to give us a little commentary on what he observed. But do you want to say something real quick about people hearing and not hearing?
Yeah, I mean, people are in the, I mean, there's a difference between listening and hearing. And, it's quite obvious in this room is that, the question that was posed ended up into a 45-minute, bottomless pit of just nothing. Nothing. And really, the only two people that said anything that made sense were the people we came with. Was Rajarani and Mayeshvara.
Oh my goodness.
Seriously, and if this conversation, if they didn't stop the clock, they would be going on right now.
Oh God, they're so
I mean, it was ridiculous, and it just was a room full of people seemed to just have their independent feelings and speculation on how they thought it worked. It was like there was no collaboration. It wasn't like anybody was helping one another solve any kind of a problem. It wasn't even a solution was being presented.
What was the event?
Okay, let me kind of fill in the background here. Krishnamurti Foundation had an open house at the other end of town. And they have also, they put in videos and they have discussions and they have people who spent time with him and they show a video of him speaking. And this particular thing we went to was when they had a dialogue. And the conversation they were really trying to deal with was, and one of the biggest contribution Krishnamurti made, and I say this somewhat appreciatively, although it doesn't really get you anywhere, is the fact that we're all conditioned. And that's what they were talking about. And they are getting all wrapped around the pole. Well, if I'm conditioned, then how do I get unconditioned? But then I'll be conditioned again. And well, but if I'm conditioned on top of my conditioning, well, then should I try to be unconditioned, or how, can we actually ever become unconditioned? You know, it's like blah blah blah. And that's what he's talking about. They were going to go round and round and round and round, just speculating and speculating and speculating and speculating. So I made a very simple point: is that, and I think it was pretty obvious. Everybody was agreeing that we can't get away from conditioning. So I simply said, well, if we accept that, then really it gets down to, well, what's the best way to be conditioned? So we can all live comfortably together and honestly and resolve all the issues and social problems that the world's facing right now. And it went right over everybody's head. Some people got upset. Like, oh no, but then we'd have to make decisions, like some things would be right and wrong, and oh God, then we'd have to take a stand. And it's like, well, yeah, we would. And they didn't want to do that. And so they went back into, we'd rather just keep on speculating about, are we conditioned, or maybe we should be conditioned? How do I not be conditioned? How do I stop seeing the world from a conditioned point? It was just, yeah, that's what it
It was just crazy. It was
Okay,
crazy.
so that's why we get to this. We have to recognize our limits. And I've tried this with those people before. Let's just deal with the facts that we have limited senses. We have imperfect senses, right? We can be illusioned. We have a propensity to cheat. And we have a propensity to make mistakes. That's the beginning, starting point of actually becoming clear and recognizing that you need help. You're never going to figure it out on your own. Okay, with having said that, I want to get right over here because we've got some work to do, and we got about 20 minutes to do it in. So what I did here, if I can find it, what's going on here? Oh, we go here. I'm still learning my new connections. Okay, so this is now normally this program is called the Bhagavad Gita as it is Fellowship Discussion Group. And like I said, I sometimes invite you to step a little further into the Vedic world and these Vedic literatures. The Bhagavad Gita is very simple, very foundational, but we're going to step into the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavat Purana tonight. And there's 40 verses here, and they're all pretty short, and they discuss what's going on in the world today. So Maharaj Pariksit, this is called The Punishment Reward of Kali, and he's now finally, the Pandavas have gone to heaven, the Kurukshetra war is over, Maharaj Pariksit is now in charge. He's a saintly king. It's not the way the world is today. He knows the difference between right and wrong. He knows what his duties are. And he's checking out his kingdom. And he's saying, okay, what's going on here? I'm watching. And he's a very vigilant king. Somebody does something wrong. No, you're going to have to pay for that. We're going to have to deal with that. It's not kind of like, well, maybe that's okay. No. He knows what's going down. So we're going to see how he approaches. And there's a little bit of kind of poetic metaphor here going on in the sense of Kali the bull. And by the way, before I get too far, this is all summarized very nicely on this chart. In fact, what we're going to read tonight is actually that verse is at the bottom of this page. And if we get a chance, maybe I'll bring this up, although I don't know if we'll have time. Maybe during dinner we can do that. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to just quickly go around the room. If you don't want to read, you don't have to, but I'm hoping everybody will participate here. It'll make it a little more interesting. And then when we get down, I don't know if we're going to do Sanskrit tonight because we might not have time, but when we get down to, I think, verse 37, that's really where the punch of all this comes in, because it gets down to what are those 4 subtle laws of nature that we need to be aware of. And with a little bit of hope, I just got an email from the Ojai Valley News editor. He asked me to cut my article down. There, I think it'll probably be in Friday's newspaper. I'm talking about one of these 4 laws based on some current events that have happened here in Ojai recently. What's up, Robert?
So I'll just make a little comment, about the Krishnamurti, like, gathering kind of thing. There's a lot of New Age philosophies, spiritual practices, all kinds of stuff that are going, they're in yoga studios or whatever. And the thing is, there's a lot of little good parts and stuff that you can use from, but the end result, if you bring it to its end, the end result is often just speculation.
You're just standing there scratching your head.
So it could be,
Exactly.
It's not just Krishnamurti, there's a lot of these things.
Right,
And
right.
there's some, they're good, there's some really
And that's the
interesting
challenge.
ones,
A lot of the New Age stuff, that's why people are attracted to it. There's bits and pieces of truth in it. But when you actually, one of the things Srila Prabhupada used to do, every time he met anybody, and we brought him philosophers and Nobel laureates and scientists and authors and writers and musicians, we brought him everything, beatniks, the whole deal. And the first thing Prabhupada would say, what is your philosophy? What is your philosophy? What is your understanding of life? And a lot of people really had an answer, and some people did just go, well, I'm just trying to do the right thing, want to live no karma. Okay, where'd you get that from? And he would just start drilling down. What is your philosophy? Where'd you get it from? Why do you think that's good? Why do you think that's bad? What does it mean? Where's it going with you? Where are you going with it? Okay, so let's try to do this. I'll read the first one, then we'll go around the room. Mark, and then, what's it, Janet? What's your Sean? Sean and Corey? Conrad. Okay, give me a couple shots here. Sean and Conrad, you're new. Thank you for coming, by the way. And then Dennis will go around the room. I'm assuming everybody can see it, and if you don't want to, just say pass. No, you're not obliged. But I want to get everybody involved. And this is a really cool story. You're going to actually hear how Maharaj Pariksit dealt with the personification of Kali. He comes upon this bull that has 4 legs. Most bulls have 4 legs. But one of the legs is still good, and the other 3 have already been broken, because Kali has destroyed them. And these 4 legs are these 4 principles of Dharma. These 4 principles, hi Dave. These 4 principles of Dharma that are essential for us to be able to live in a civilized world. Remember, this is the dawn of Kali Yuga. Things are going wrong. And it starts right here. You're going to get a front row seat. So Sukadeva Goswami said, after reaching that place, Maharaj Pariksit observed that a low-class Sudra, this is kind of a low-life guy, dressed like a king, was beating a cow and a bull with a club, as if they had no owner. As if they had no owner. Okay, we're going to skip over the purports and the Sanskrit. And Mark, if you could read this one.
The bull was as white as a white lotus flower. He was terrified of the Sudra who was beating him, and he was so afraid that he was standing on one leg, trembling and urinating.
Okay, so this is the bull. He's like, what's going on here? Okay, Sean, right there.
Although the cow is beneficial because one can draw religious principles from her, she was now rendered poor and calfless. Her legs were being beaten by a Sudra. There were tears in her eyes, and she was distressed and weak. She was hankering after some grass in the field.
Okay, so cows are very wonderful creatures. They're very simple. They just want to eat grass, give milk, leave them alone. They'll be wonderful animals. But this one's getting tortured. Go ahead, Conrad.
How do you say that again?
Maharaj Pariksit.
Maharaj Pariksit, well equipped with arrows and bow and seated on a gold embossed chariot, spoke to him, the Sudra, with a deep voice sounding like thunder.
Okay, Maharaj Pariksit is like, okay, what's going on in my kingdom? I don't like the way this looks. Okay, go ahead, Dennis.
Oh, who are you? You appear to be strong, and yet you dare kill, within my protection, those who are helpless. By your dress you pose yourself to be a godly man, king. But by your deeds you are opposing the principles of the twice-born
Kshatriyas.
country.
Basically what he's saying is you're dressed like a king, you're dressed like you're somebody we ought to be paying respects to, but you're doing something really dirty, ugly, and heinous here, and I don't buy it. Who are you? What are you doing here? This cow is being beaten and I don't like it. Okay, Buffy.
You rogue, do you dare beat an innocent cow because Lord Krishna and Arjuna, the carrier of the
Gandaiva.
Gandaiva bow, are out of sight? Since you are beating the innocent in a secluded place, you are considered a culprit and therefore deserve to be killed.
Okay, so, yeah, you're beating up on an innocent animal in my kingdom. Your head's coming off here real shortly. Okay, that's what he's saying. There's no messing around with Maharaj Pariksit. Okay, go ahead.
Then Maharaja Pariksit. Maharaja Pariksit. Is it pronounced Pariksit?
Pariksit, they
That's
both ways.
That's what I've said. And it asked the bull. Then he asked the bull, "Oh, who are you? Are you a bull as white as a white lotus, or are you a demigod? You have lost 3 of your legs and are moving on only 1. Are you some demigod causing us grief in the form of a bull?"
So he's trying to find out, this is not an ordinary bull, this is an extraordinary bull, and he's trying to figure out, well, exactly who's he dealing with here? She's obviously suffering, so we're going to
It wouldn't
find
be a
out.
bull, would it?
Now,
Is it a cow or a bull?
It's described as a bull. I might have said
But it's
cow.
a female.
Male cow?
My understanding it's a bull.
Mhm.
I bet if there's some gender change going on here, I didn't catch it. Go ahead.
Now for the first time in a kingdom well protected by the arms of the kings of the Kuru dynasty, I see you grieving with tears in your eyes. Up till now, no one on earth has ever shed tears because of royal negligence.
Okay, so the king's responsible for the welfare of the people. Kind of a radical idea from what we're used to, right?
Yeah.
In those days, the kings are really responsible. If people aren't happy, the kings are like, I'm not doing my job. I got to find out why aren't the people happy. And that's what he's doing right now. Go ahead, Harry.
O son of
Surabi.
you need lament no longer now. There is no need to fear this low-class Sudra. And oh, mother cow, as long as I am living, and as the ruler and subduer of all envious men, there's no cause for you to cry. Everything will be good for you.
So he's a Kshatriya. He's seeing some innocent animal is getting cursed and beat up and damaged, and he's saying, not on my watch, not in my kingdom. Whoever's doing this to you, he's going down real fast here. Radharani, you want to read the next one here?
O chaste one, the king's good name, duration of life, and good rebirth vanish when all kinds of living beings are terrified by miscreants in his kingdom. It is certainly a prime duty of the king to subdue first the sufferings of those who suffer. Therefore, I must kill this most wretched man because he is violent against other living beings.
Okay. Maharaj Pariksit was a man of action. He wasn't just going to stand there and watch this happen and say, yeah, let's go back to the office and write some paper for Congress. No.
Sounds like eye for an eye in the Old Testament.
Yeah, well, yeah, but under religious principles, yeah, exactly. He wasn't afraid to step in and do what needed to be done. Okay, John.
He, Maharaj Pariksit, repeatedly addressed and questioned the bull thus: O son of Surabi, who has cut off your 3 legs, in the state of the kings who are obedient to the laws of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, there is no one as unhappy as you.
So he's hearing his constituents and he's going, yeah, you don't look happy and I am really concerned about this and I want to know more about what's going on. Deva, you want to read that?
O bull, you are offenseless and thoroughly honest. Therefore, I wish all good to you. Please tell me of the perpetrator of these mutilations, which blackmail the reputation of the sons of
Prita. So that's his dynasty. And he's saying, this is going on in my kingdom? I'm not going to let my family reputation go bad because somebody is tearing up on you and you're an innocent animal. No. I'm going to do something about this. That's what he's basically saying here. He said, no, my job is to find out what's at the root of this. And I'll read the next one. Whoever causes offenseless living beings to suffer must fear me anywhere and everywhere in the world. By curbing dishonest miscreants, one automatically benefits the offenseless. Right? That's the Kshatriya force is there to protect the innocent people who are just trying to do their daily living, their job, whatever it is, and somebody comes in and starts giving them a hard time. Nope. That's where the Kshatriyas need to step up. Not on my watch. Go ahead, Mark.
An upstart living being who commits offenses by torturing those who are offenseless shall be directly uprooted by me. even though he be a denizen of heaven with armor and decoration.
So he doesn't care the fact that he's dressed like a king. He's not going to let any of that fool him. He's no. There's this famous saying: you can dress a person up like a king and put him on a throne, but if he's a dog, as soon as he opens his mouth, you'll know it. Right? Dress is not the name of the game. It always gets down to behavior and what people say. Go ahead, Sean.
The supreme duty of the ruling king is to give all protection to law-abiding persons and to chastise those who stray from the ordinances of the scriptures in the ordinary times when there is no emergency.
Okay, so he's making a concession that sometimes things are a little out of line and may have to step outside the jurisdiction of what's recommended in the Manu Samhita and so forth. Very rare circumstances, but so he's saying that's not one of them now. So there's no reason for this to be happening. You're in trouble, Kali. You're in big trouble. Because I'm here and we're going to deal with this right now. Okay, Conrad, you can do this one.
The personality of religion said, "These words just spoken by you benefit a person of
Pandava dynasty.
Pandava dynasty, captivated by the devotional qualities of the Pandavas. Even Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, performs duties as a messenger."
So what he's saying here is that the bull is, this is still Pariksit speaking, I believe, is being honored as you really are speaking like a true-blown Pandava. You are upholding your dynasty with what you just said. Okay, go ahead, Dennis.
O greatest among human beings, it is very difficult to ascertain the particular miscreant who has caused our suffering, because we are bewildered by all the different opinions of theoretical philosophers.
Now keep in mind, for those of you who are just dying to know what's in these purports, you can get this book and read it. This purport is all about all the nonsense philosophy that's now been generated. Remember, this happened 5,000 years ago. And now we're doing a world with all this stuff. It's like Pandora's box. This is like trying to hold the lid on for a couple more generations. But eventually that lid pops open, and now we're going to learn about what's the problem. Go ahead, Buffy.
Some of the philosophers who deny all sorts of duality declare that one's own self is responsible for his personal happiness and distress. Others say that superhuman powers are responsible, while yet others say that activity is responsible. And the gross materialists maintain that nature is the ultimate cause.
Okay, so each one of these, there's a whole discussion that goes on with each one of these. Who's saying what? There's all sorts. What's really the source of what's going on? This is the Bhagavatam. It doesn't blow any, it puts it right out there. Okay, Robert.
There are also some thinkers who believe that no one can ascertain the cause of distress by argumentation, nor know it by imagination, nor express it by words. O sage amongst kings, judge for yourself by thinking over all this with your own intelligence.
Okay, so again, we're getting, remember the Bhagavatam goes on for like 18 volumes. It's 18,000 verses long. So this is the first canto, in 17th chapter, and they're kind of laying down some of the subject matters that's being discussed in the Bhagavatam, which is why this is such an extraordinary book. We're just giving you kind of a preview, kind of like a movie preview. Okay, who's next, Bill?
Sutta Swami said, "O best among the Brahmanas, the
Emperor Pariksit.
What's his name again?
Pariksit.
Pariksit, thank you. Thus hearing the personality of religion speak, was fully satisfied, and without mistake or regret gave his reply."
Okay, so now Maharaj Pariksit is, the Brahman Emperor Pariksit, thus hearing, so Dharma the bull has given all these, made all these points, and Maharaj Pariksit is going to respond again. The king said, okay, who's next here?
The king said, "O you, who are in the form of a bull, you know the truth of religion, and you are speaking according to the principle that the destination intended for the perpetrator is religious. Acts is also intended for one who identifies the perpetrator, who are no other than the personality of religion."
Okay, what's happening here is Maharaj Pariksit is recognizing by the the depth of what Dharma the bull was saying, he's saying, oh, you're not just any ordinary bull. You're actually a very highly aware bull who understands Dharma and understands the duties of the king and understands the severity of what's going on here. Okay, John.
Thus it is concluded that the Lord's energies are inconceivable. No one can estimate them by mental speculation or by word jugglery.
And there's the reason why the people at the Krishnamurti Foundation will talk for, like you said, they'd still be talking now, because you can't figure it out. Without having some inside transcendental kind of foot in the door, so to speak, they will still be talking. They've been talking, well, Krishnamurti was born in 1932, and they've been talking since then. They still can't give you a straight answer, in my opinion.
Krishnamurti says stuff like that, but it still keeps going on and on.
Yeah, but he never comes to any conclusion. Okay, go ahead, Deva.
I agree. In the age of Satya, truthfulness, your 4 legs were established by the 4 principles of austerity, friendliness, mercy, and truthfulness.
Those are right there. Pay attention to those. That's what this chart's all about. Those are the 4 legs of Dharma right there. We're going to get into it a little bit more. This is what most people don't want to hear. They don't want to hear this. And by the way, in case anybody walks away from here thinking that I'm perfect in all these things, I'm not. We're all in this mess together. Some of us have some, we're a little ahead of it. Some of us, we all have our foibles. We all have our weaknesses. We all have the things that tend to undermine us. And we work on them. We work on them.
But it appears that 3 of your legs are broken due to rampant irreligion in the form of pride, lust for women, and intoxication.
Okay? So now you're starting to see some connections here. Okay?
Yep.
Let's see what else it says here. Okay, I'll read this one. You're now standing on 1 leg only, which is your truthfulness. There's still a little bit, if you actually take a look at this chart, you'll see that each one of these things that you're talking about, austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness is the last one. Each one progressively falls apart as we move forward in time from the different yugas. So we're in Kali Yuga. There's still a little bit of truthfulness left. Still a little bit of truthfulness. Truthfulness is destroyed by gambling. Gambling's out there, and it's getting worse, but most people don't have a problem with gambling like they do with eating animals. Especially in this country. Or drinking, or, shooting heroin.
I mean, when you say gambling, though, isn't gambling also in a broader context? I mean, like I was watching Bill Maher this weekend, they were talking about how and I really looked it up. I mean, the planet is wobbling. I mean, it's off its wobble a little bit.
Yep. Yep.
Doing
The
such
stock market
crazy
is a
things.
casino.
Yeah. No, the whole economy is basically gambling. You're absolutely right. I mean, we can analyze it on many different levels. Yeah. So in that sense, Kali Yuga is very heavily influenced by gambling.
What?
But there's still some element of truthfulness. There's still people who will return your wallet with your money in it. Another couple to 100,000 years from now, and what wallet? Right?
What's with mercy? Can you say something on what mercy is?
Mercy is directly impacted by the killing of animals.
Okay.
Okay, that's what this chart's all about. If we get I'll do it during dinner because we're going to run out of time here. If you want, we'll go through that. Did we read this? You're now standing on 1 leg. Did I read the whole thing? But quarrel personified Kali, flourished by deceit, is also trying to destroy that leg. So imagine the cow. There's a picture of this in the Bhagavatam. The cow's like, he's got 1 leg and the other legs are gone. But he's still trying to hold himself up on that 1 leg truthfulness. And Dharma represents our society. We are wobbling, like John said.
Quarrel could be speculation too, right? Maybe.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because nobody wants to accept what we talked about earlier, which is we got 4 flaws, and we're all trying to put it on a show, look good for everybody else, and actually nobody knows what the hell we're doing. Okay, Mark.
The burden of the earth was certainly diminished by the personality of Godhead and by others as well. When he was present as an incarnation, all good was performed because of his auspicious footprints.
Okay, so what he's saying here is this is right after Lord Krishna left, and as long as Lord Krishna was here, he was keeping all this stuff down. But now Lord Krishna's gone, Kali says, now's my chance, I'm coming in. Sean.
Now she, the chaste one, being unfortunately forsaken by the personality of Godhead, laments her future with tears in her eyes, for now she's being ruled and enjoyed by lower class men who pose as rulers.
So here he's referring to the personification of Kali, who's posing as some kind of a ruler. So all sorts of great commentary in here in terms of the way Paul. And by the way, this whole purport, all this stuff we're reading right now is written like in 1950s. That's how old this is, and yet it's spot on accurate. It is so dead on accurate. It's pretty amazing. Okay.
When you say it was written, you mean it was translated?
Yeah, excuse me. The text
Right,
that we're
the text
reading has been there for 5,000 years,
Right.
but the purports
was translated.
that illuminate this, where it's translated in the 50s. Conrad, go ahead.
Maharaj
Prickett,
who could fight 1,000 enemies single-handedly, thus pacified the personality of religion and the earth. Then he took up his sharp sword to kill the personality of Kali, who is the cause of all irreligion.
Okay, so Kali, just quickly here. Here's Mars Prickett. Here's Kali. And by the way, I have a video clip. I got about a 9-minute video clip on this. We'll play it at dinner time. That's where I got this from. So that's what this whole thing is about. He's saying, and Kali's standing there saying, "Hey, I'm going to cause havoc in your kingdom." And Mars Prickett's saying, "Nope."
Kali is a man?
These are personifications to help us grasp the concepts. Yeah, and this you might be thinking of Kali, what's her name? Kali Ma. Thank you.
Different Kali.
It's a different Kali. Okay,
When
Dennis.
the personality of Kali understood that the king was willing to kill him, he at once abandoned the dress of the king, and under pressure of fear completely surrendered to him, bowing his head.
Okay, now you're going to learn something really kind of cool here. Mars Prickett was a ferocious warrior Kshatriya, but they also had codes of behavior. And their code of behavior is if somebody surrenders, you must accept it, and now you have to protect them. You only kill if they keep fighting. And by the way, you think about this in your dealings with others. If people are fighting with you, you keep dealing. But if they want to make peace, you have to make peace. Okay? Buffy.
Maharaj
Prickett.
Thank you, who was qualified to accept surrender and worthy of being sung in history, did not kill the poor, surrendered, and fallen Kali, but smiled compassionately, for he was kind to the poor.
So just notice how 1 minute he's got his sword, and they showed it in the movie with an arrow. It's written in the Bhagavat. He's got his sword and he's ready to lop this guy's head off. And then Kali, being mischief maker himself, goes, "Ooh, I'm not going to win this one." So he throws himself on the ground. "I'm surrendered." And now Mars Prickett, he's duty bound. Now he's actually one of his constituents, and he must protect them.
Fast rehab process.
Yeah, very fast
Yeah,
rehab process. Go ahead, Robert.
The king thus said, "We have inherited the fame of Arjuna. Therefore, since you have surrendered yourself with folded hands, you need not fear for your life. But you cannot remain in my kingdom, for you are the friend of irreligion."
So he's saying, okay, you surrendered. I'm not going to kill you, but you're going to cause havoc. You start killing the animals and getting everybody wrecked out of their head with intoxications and chasing the women and breaking down truthfulness. That's going to cause a lot of havoc. So you can't do it in my kingdom. Go ahead.
If the personality of Kali, irreligion, is allowed to act as a man god or an executive head, certainly irreligious principles like greed, falsehood, robbery, incivility, treachery, misfortune, cheating, quarrel, and vanity will abound.
And that's exactly what we're seeing in the world today. The question is, what did he do? Because he's telling you can't be in the kingdom. So what's the puzzle? Go ahead, Harry.
Therefore, O friend of irreligion,
Irreligion, yeah.
you do not deserve to remain in a place where experts perform sacrifices according to the truth and the religious principles for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead.
So he's saying, well, okay, but I'm sorry, you just can't be around here because these people are serious about wanting to lift their consciousness out of the material world and get back to Godhead, and you're going to cause havoc. Go ahead, John.
In all sacrificial ceremonies, although sometimes the demigod is worshipped, the Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead is worshipped because he is the super soul of everyone and exists both inside and outside like the air. Thus it is he who awards all welfare to the worshiper.
Okay, so he's making an indirect recognition that ultimately Krishna is in charge, God's the supreme proprietor here, and people are serious about that. We do not want you coming around here creating havoc. That's what he's saying. Okay, Deva.
Sri Sutta Goswami said, the personality of Kali, thus being ordered by Maharaja
Pariksit.
began to tremble in fear, seeing the king before him like
Yamaraj. He's the Lord of Death.
Ready to kill him. Kali spoke to the king as follows.
So, this guy is dressed up like a king causing all this grief. This is the way bullies work, right? They take advantage of the poor little innocent guy until somebody big and powerful steps in and says, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And now all of a sudden he's, "Ooh, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. Your Majesty, though I may live anywhere and everywhere under your order, I shall but see you with bow and arrows wherever I look." So Kali's saying, "Hey, you're going to be out. You're going to be on my butt everywhere I go, and I can't live like that." Mark.
Therefore, O chief amongst protectors of religion, please fix some place for me where I can live permanently under the protection of your government.
So he's trying to make a deal here. Where can I live where I can just be who I am? It's my nature to be a bad guy. It's my nature to get everybody wrecked and to create illicit affairs and to cheat and steal and do all this stuff. That's my nature. Okay, Sean.
Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Pariksit, thus being petitioned by the personality of Kali, gave him permission to reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter were performed.
Okay, this was the verse that I was going to quote. This is the verse which is quoted on the bottom of this chart, because you're finding right now, these are the 4 places where problems occur, right? And this is what makes our movement different from everybody else. And this is why a lot of people aren't rushing in here to hear what we have to say. Now keep in mind, we all wrestle with this stuff. This is not really what we call politically correct to try to say, hey, you got to watch out for these things. But if we want to do the stages that we talked about earlier before we started reading this, we want to be honest. It's like, well, do you really want to clean up your consciousness? Do you really want to understand what spiritual life is? Do you really want to have a deep appreciation for life and the world and actually make a contribution? Or do you just want to do what everybody else is doing and just be part of, like they say, you're either part of the solution or part of the problem? This is the key right here. He's saying, okay, you can stay in these, so there's only a few more verses and then we can break it up here. So that's where he's saying you can stay. Those 4 things, if you study this chart, each one of them is indirectly the inverse problem. So example, truthfulness is destroyed by gambling. Because in a way it's kind of like, if you're gambling, you're trying to get something for nothing, right? You put down 10 cents and you want $10. You bet 10 cents, 10 to 1 or whatever, 100 to 1. But that's kind of a form of cheating. So, and it creates a lack of truthfulness. So it's not encouraged. It creates problems. So it's not quite as bad, although good point. Yeah, we're running with the stock market, which is
You
a
were
form
going
of
to show
gambling.
us all 4 words match up with those 4 legs.
Yeah, that's the chart. Let's just finish. I think it's 3 more verses here, and then we'll be done with this. And notice how long this purport is too, because it's a very important, powerful purport. Okay, who are we up to? Comrade.
The personality of Kali asked for something more, and because for his begging the king gave him permission to live where there is gold, because wherever there is gold there is also falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and enmity.
Isn't that true? How gold is such a powerful thing. And the crazy thing about gold is you can't eat it. And yet people go nuts for it. Prabhupada said real wealth is not how much gold you got piled up in front of you. He very practically said real wealth is an acre of land and a cow. You got milk and you got food. What more do you need?
Was he referring to that as money? Because gold was a currency back then?
Well, yeah, if you actually read the purports to this, he'll talk about how we're even so screwed up in Kali Yuga. Now gold isn't even the currency. We use paper. And we all know the paper is way out of proportion with the amount of gold that's out there. Right? That's called inflation. Theoretically, paper was a means of exchanging. You used to have on the paper note, it used to say this is worth 1 ounce of gold, and you could take it to a bank and you could actually get gold. And then they went, oh, well, we need more money than we have gold. So they basically canceled all those notes. Same thing with gold certificates, silver certificates. When I was a kid, I don't know if you remember, but they had us turn in all the silver certificates. Because it said the bearer will be provided an ounce of silver or an ounce of gold. You don't see those anymore. We don't even have a gold currency. We have a paper currency, which, if you know economics and the stock market and what's going on, it can all evaporate. That's what happened in 2008, 2006. It all fell out. Okay, who are we up to?
Thus, the personality of Kali, by the directions of Maharaj Pariksit, the son of Uttara, was allowed to live in those 5 places.
Okay, so I think that, oh, maybe one more verse here. Okay, Buffy, you want to do this one?
Therefore, whoever desires progressive well-being, especially kings, religionists, public leaders, brahmanas, and sannyasis, should never come in contact with the 4 above-mentioned irreligious principles.
So that's one of the things we teach in our Krishna conscious principle. Oh, there's another one. There's not too many more. I thought it was only like 40, 41. Okay, Robert?
Thereafter the king re-established the lost legs of the personality of religion, the bull, and by encouraging activities he sufficiently improved the condition of the earth.
Okay, so Maharaj Pariksit, basically what he said was, we're going to get things straightened out here. Oops, there's some more. I'm sorry. Keep thinking that was the last one. Okay,
The most
Gabriel.
fortunate Emperor Maharaj Pariksit, who was entrusted with the kingdom of Hastinapura by Maharaj Yudhisthira, when he desired to retire to the forest, is now ruling the world with great success due to his being glorified by the deeds of the kings of the Kuru dynasty.
Okay, so that's just sort of and everybody went home and lived happily ever after. Although, there's another one. I didn't think there was that many. Okay, go ahead. Who's next? Harry.
Maharaj Pariksit, the son of
Abhimanyu, yeah.
is so experienced that by dint of his expert administration and patronage, it has been possible for you to perform a sacrifice such as this.
Okay. Remember, this is there's the end of it. Okay, so that's the next chapter. Remember, the whole Bhagavatam is basically stories within stories within stories to help us understand all these different principles. I just want to do this real quickly, and then we're going to go for prasadam, and then I'll show you the video while we're eating prasadam. But here's the chart that I was showing you. You can get these series of charts. You give a couple dollars, you can take the whole set. There's 4 of them. But this one's about the 4 millenniums and the progressive loss of Dharma, austerity, cleanliness, mercy, truthfulness. So if we look, let's just concentrate on this one. Kali Yuga began 5,000 years ago. That's what we were just discussing. The characteristics of this particular millennium is everybody's quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, and disturbed. Most of these are all cross-referenced to the Bhagavatam itself. There's one right there. People live about 100 years. In previous millenniums, they lived longer. The principle of truthfulness is everybody lives just, moral, and chivalry. High-minded philosophical exchange between citizens. This is what the healthy society should have. Okay, no one gets cheated, integrity-based honest work for wages, etc. But what's actually happening? What are the symptoms that things are going wrong? Gambling, prize chasing, deceitful ads, lying propaganda, and the lottery. And what's that cause in society? What's the implications? Anxiety, paranoia, cheating, fraud, gross irresponsibility, lost retirements, right? Because of the stock market. People put their money in the stock market and all goes crazy. And what are some of the social symptoms that we see? People are buying home alarms, they're engaging in bingo games, they're doing bankruptcy, envy, Ponzi schemes, horse racing. These are all forms of gambling and cheating, which is untruthful. What do we see as a solution? What's the modern day solution people are trying to do to solve this problem, which is not going to work? Apologizing, therapy, prison, elaborate laws, big contracts, encounter groups, watchdog commissions, security cameras. That's what people are doing to try to solve this problem. But what's the real Vedic solution? The Vedic solution is stop lotto, casinos, and all forms of gambling. Has to be stopped. People want to hear that? No, they don't want to hear that. That's why we only have about 10 people in the room here tonight. Okay, and here's the verse that sort of supports this. Demonic do not know what is to be done, nor what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness, nor proper behavior, nor truth is found in them. I'm not going to go into it, but here's the verse we just read. I'm not going to spit it out. There's some more notes on here. Without any further delay, let us do the Prasadam mantras, and I'd like to have some time for questions. Let's just see what we can do here. Uh-oh. Does anybody have any questions real quick while I make this?
That means stopping the entire stock market, correct?
What's that?
Stopping the entire stock market, the whole thing would be the only way to...
Ultimately, yes. Obviously, that's not going to happen in our generation.
Well, but there's two ways to look at the stock market. If you're an investor, like if you want to give money to a corporation that you believe in to help it grow, but if you're a speculator, then that's a different. It's all how you
so
view
there
it.
might be some forms that would be okay.
Yeah, no, capital is good if it's used correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, we
It's
could.
the speculation that's killing the market.
We can have an elaborate discussion on this.
Yeah.
I don't want to make any blanket statements, but just try to understand the underlying principle. When there's gambling, there's a lot of. I mean, some people go to Las Vegas. It's really actually a crime. They have these, what do they call it, ATMs in the casinos. You can put your crash card. I don't know if anybody's ever known somebody who's a chronic gambler, but they can go to Las Vegas and they can literally wager their whole house and come home completely broke. And wager everything they have. I mean, gambling. People. What's that?
Cocaine addicts did the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I think most people have a sense of that, but it's if you don't have the problem with gambling, you don't have the problem. But there are people who are, what are they called, chronic gamblers, and they'll gamble on anything, and it creates havoc, serious havoc in their lives. Okay, let's sing the prayer here. Sadida together, please, if you know it. Sadida Vijajal Jatendra Te Kal Jive Fale Visaya Sagare Karmaje Jivayati Lovamoya Sadurmati Take Jeta Katina Samsare Krishna Baradayamai Karibara Jivajai Swapashad and Adila Bai Sayan Amrita Parada Krishna Gunagal Premida Ko Chitanya Nitai Jai Nimai Nitai. Can somebody please volunteer to read the English?
I will.
Good.
Oh Lord, this material body is a lump of ignorance, and the senses are a network of paths to death. Somehow we have fallen into this ocean of material sense enjoyment, and of all the senses the tongue is most voracious and uncontrollable. It is very difficult to conquer the tongue in this world. But you, dear Krishna, are very kind to us and have given us such nice prasadam just to control the tongue. Now we take this prasadam to our full satisfaction and glorify their lordships, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, and in love call for the help of Lord Caitanya and Lord Nityananda.
Very good. Written by Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Thank you, John. Okay, so thank you for indulging. I am trying to. We pushed the meeting up a half an hour so we could end a little earlier, but we're still kind of working that out here. But we are a little bit earlier. Brajarani, are we ready to go in the kitchen?
Yep.
Okay, good. Almost. Okay. Anybody have any more questions? Do you have any questions? Anything you want to comment on? Anything we overwhelm you with? You ready to go screaming out of the room? Sometimes that happens. People get so bent out of shape. They go, oh, wait, I gotta go now.
So what is the purpose of this Krishna consciousness that you're teaching here or making us aware of? Is basically just a call back to certain Vedic teachings that have been around for thousands of years and saying, hey, we're so out of balance, we need to go back to basics and roots? Or
That's pretty good summary, yeah. In other words, the Krishna first of all, Krishna consciousness is not necessarily prejudicial for the Krishna conscious movement, although obviously it's that too. But all it means is God conscious. Become God conscious. And one of the wonderful things about the Krishna conscious movement, which I haven't found in any other faith, is that we don't care if you do that through Christianity or Islam or Judaism or the American Indians or the Aborigines in Australia. there's all different levels and degrees of God consciousness. Now, if you take all of those different traditions and you actually do an academic study, you'll find that some of them have more information about God and how to become conscious of Him than others. Okay, the American Indians and what's referred to as Wicca. Wicca is kind of like, it's sort of like a religion of Mother Nature. It's very nice. It's very nice. The New Age movement of all about the environment. A lot of nowadays the environment has become a religion for a lot of people. So that's kind of Wicca. That's really what Wicca is. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a different chart, by the way. That's the 3 different aspects of Godhead chart.
Yeah, and then are you talking Gardnerian, Wicca, or, I mean, he wrote basically the Wicca religion in 53, tried to formalize it. I always thought it was just an excuse to get women naked.
Well, it probably was. It might have been. And that's why
pagans and nature religions.
That's why our Bhagavatam, I think it's the 2nd verse in the Bhagavatam that starts with completely rejecting all religious activities that are materially motivated. This Bhagavat Purana propounds the highest truth, which is distinguished by those who are fully honest, by those devotees who are fully honest, and is distinguished from illusion.
Or honest about your motives, at least.
What's that?
Honest about your motives.
Yeah. In other words, well, the thing is, you really have, the Bhagavatam will give you as much as you're willing to take the time to pull out of it. If you really want to have a deep understanding of what's going on in the world, you have to take the time, like anything else. If you want to become a dentist, you got to spend the time to go to school and learn medical school, and then they give you got to go through the training and all that stuff. So this class that we do here on Tuesday nights is kind of like, it's Bhagavad Gita class. It's sort of like high school graduation. In our movement, but to answer your question, the whole focus of our movement, the whole purpose of our movement, what Bhaktivedanta Swami is trying to do was to try to reestablish the Brahminical class, because there is no Brahminical class right now. The world, the whole society is running around without a head. We went through that, I think, the last time. Brahmins are the head of society. We don't have a head of society. We got Kshatriyas, we got warrior class out there starting wars all over the world. We got the Vaishya class trying to make business and capitalism all over the world and sell McDonald's and push our products all over the place, And then you got the Sudras running around, making music and doing art and doing all that stuff. But where's the head? The head is supposed to be the priests, the intellectuals, the teachers. I mean, theoretically, the schools, I guess we could say the schools are supposed to be the head, right? The educational institutions. But they're not teaching people about God. They're teaching people how to make computers. They're teaching people how to do business. They're teaching people how to make a lot of money, how to build bigger planes and bigger jets, and how to be competitive. They're not teaching people about the most foundational principles of what it means to live in a healthy, working environmental society. Did you want to add something, brother?
I was just questioning that in terms. Sometimes it can sound quite pessimistic. Everything is, gloom in this world. People are not, like these, and what's the purpose of, then, in terms of, all these, okay, I find out, okay, I'm not perfect. Something's, the world isn't perfect.
Well, the ultimate purpose. You can answer your own question if I don't do it well enough. The ultimate purpose, ultimately, really, if you think about it, somebody asked Prabhupada, what's the purpose of life? And his answer was very simple, to be happy. Well, but that seems to be pretty difficult. Well, why? Because we don't know how to be happy. Because the Brahminical class isn't, we've been cheated, we've been deceived into thinking that bigger house, right, bigger is better. Bigger house, bigger car, bigger bank account, more TVs, more videos, more whatever it is, we'll be happy. But we all, I think everybody in this room at least realizes that that's kind of an illusion. And in some cases, that's actually can be the source of a tremendous amount of suffering.
So how can we be happy?
To be actually understand our relationship with Krishna and engage in Krishna conscious service. That actually, what is it, hoitaki apratiyata, to engage in Krishna conscious service, will actually make the individual happy. That is our constitutional position. That is our dharma. That is actually who we are.
Right, because we are spirit souls.
Right.
And spirit souls has 3 main qualities, is Satchit and Ananda.
Right.
It's eternal, it's full of knowledge, and it's full of bliss. So by nature we're meant to be happy, and that's why everyone's looking for happiness, because we are meant to be happy. So, but we're not connecting with our actual true nature, and that's why we don't feel satisfied and happy. And the truth is, we're meant to have knowledge about what's truth and what's right and how to be happy.
Right.
And that's why we inquire. And Sat means, why is death so uncomfortable?
Because
Because
we're
we're
eternal.
not meant to die. The soul doesn't die. So how do we get answers to these questions about how can we live eternally? How do we have all the right answers on how to be happy? And how can we always be blissful? So when we get our answers to those questions and we connect by who we actually are, this soul that's full of, bliss and knowledge and eternity, when we connect with our true self, then it's wow.
It's a game changer.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We say in America, it's a game changer.
It's service done with love, service
Right.
done with love
Right.
for God.
Instead of by coercion or threat or fear. Somebody once said to me, the Catholic Church is all run on fear and was it fear and guilt?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? You better do it. You better do it. I do. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, Christian consciousness is not run on fear and guilt. It's run out of, what can I do today for Krishna? It's actually done out of love. Because ultimately, if you do things out of love, one of the subtle laws of nature, if you do things out of love, people will reciprocate with you in love, particularly Krishna. But if you do things out of fear, then it doesn't usually work out so well. Robert?
Yeah, I like the thought, like what is this Krishna consciousness that we're propounding or expounding upon? Like you mentioned, well, it's just about being God conscious. And there's a lot of different faiths that can help become God conscious. Just there are different levels.
Right.
And like say, through all my investigations, where I have investigated many, many other faiths, if we come into Krishna consciousness and look into the scriptures and hear from the Swamis and people speaking like Mayeshvara, from these scriptures you'll find an explanation about the supreme absolute truth, unlike any other. It'll be so thorough and in depth, unlike any other path that there's out there.
Yeah, and keep in mind also, unfortunately, because of our nature, there's also another concept. We've talked about this at other meetings. Our Bhaktisiddhanta used to say, the world of the cheaters and the cheated. So there's also a lot of people out there who know that there's people who, their nature is they want some satisfaction, they want to feel happy, they want to feel eternal and bliss, but they really don't want to do the work to get there. They want the quick ticket, right? And so what do? They sell them something cheap. And that's where you get into all these, one of the lectures we've given before is the 5 types of cheating religion. It looks like it's spiritual, it smells like it's spiritual, but it don't pay off the goods. And I know people in this room here who've invested some of their serious parts of their life pursuing things, thinking that maybe it would give them some spiritual transcendental satisfaction, to later eventually mature to the point where they said, wait a minute, this is not what I thought it was. This is not delivering the goods. And fortunately, they eventually said, no, it's time to move on. And that's perfectly okay, and that's actually good. That's the way it works. I was raised in a Christian church, and I was just very vigilant as a young kid. My parents weren't evangelical by any stretch of the imagination. They just thought it was a good idea that I have some access or outlet for religion. They had a kind of what I was raised, which was just, Christianity teaches some good basic moral principles. But when it started my brain started developing, and I started listening more carefully, I kind of go, wait a minute, there's some problems here with Christianity. It's kind of cool, but it doesn't seem to have all the answers. And I think this is what you're always kind of alluding to. And I don't care if you follow Christianity. But for some people, they're not asking those questions, so they're perfectly happy where they are. And our job is to let them be perfectly happy where they are. But if they're not satisfied, especially if they've been taken by a cheating religion, or a so-called cheating religion, then we want to try to do what we can and say, no, don't throw it's like people have been cheated. It's like they've been given a whole handful of glass and they're told these are precious jewels, and they go into the jewelry shop and the jeweler goes, what are you kidding me? This is just a bunch of glass, you fool. And the next time somebody gives them, they might actually give them real jewels. I've been through this before. They laugh me out of the jewelry shop and they throw all the diamonds and sapphires out, throw it away, because they don't know what they're looking at. Okay,
Prasadam's ready?
I think we need to eat so we don't drag on too late. I'm going to put the video on. It's only about maybe 5 to 6, maybe no more than 10 minutes. And you're going to see this episode where Maharishi Pariksit approaches Kali, and they have the dialogue that we just discussed. Of course, it's a movie version, so it's not the exact same script, but you'll follow it. And it's kind of cool to see how the Indians render this story, because this is a very, very powerful book. Okay, ready to go? Cool? Everybody cool? Go get your plates of prashadam. I realized I didn't record tonight's program.